And thank you for joining today's Graduate Success Workshop. If you wait till the last minute, it'll only take a minute. Understanding and managing procrastination. My name is Melissa Mayard. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I have had the pleasure of serving as the Associate Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at the Office of University Life. This event is part of University Life's Graduate Initiative for Inclusion and Engagement, which promotes Columbia's commitment to diversity and the success of all graduate and professional school students. University Life's graduate success workshops, such as this one, aim to support graduate and professional students transition to Columbia, whether you're a first-year student or returning, as you navigate this large but enriching community. We hope to build your professional and life skills outside of academia and give you the tools to be successful as a student and individual on your higher education and career journey. While these events are created with graduate and professional students in mind, we welcome all students in gaining these invaluable skills. Before I turn it over to our incredible speaker, and I mean incredible, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, this program will be recorded so that we can share it later via University Life's YouTube channel. This will allow students in various time zones to view the program at a later date. If you have any questions about this recording, please contact our office. Also, please make sure to remain muted. During the workshop, there will be moments where you can share your responses and thoughts, which we encourage you to unmute then or share with us in the chat. Now, I am so excited to share that this event is in collaboration with Alice Health Promotion. We are honored to have Kelly Gorman with us today. She is a health promotion specialist at Alice, where she oversees initiatives related to resilience, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. A lot of her health promotion work is contributing to the individual and systems level well-being initiatives that continue to expand the ways we conceptualize and operationalize health and well-being. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Kelly. And with that, I'll turn it over to her. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. And thank you everyone for coming. I'm so excited to be in conversation and community with you all today. I'm going to do the fun thing where I share my screen and hopefully get the right one at the right time. All right. I think we're in business now. Great. So as Melissa said, my name is Kelly Gorman. I'm a health promotion specialist with Alice Health Promotion, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today. While I wish we could be together in person, this will do. And for those of you who are also longing for that in-person feel, I invite you to turn your camera on if you want. Hang out with me. We can pretend that we're in a virtual room together. And for those of you who are like, I've had enough of screen time for today, I definitely feel you there as well. And, please engage however you feel comfortable. Today, we're going to have a great conversation together. It will be very conversational, and there will be a little bit of content as well. So I want you to engage in this space with two kind of goals in mind. The first being listening for what's one thing that you feel curious about. And the second is what's just one strategy or concept that feels applicable and realistic for you. So again, those are my two goals for you for today, is just listen for those two things. And in thinking about our time together, I'm going to do a little bit of forecasting here. So there will be time to do a little bit of journaling, as in there are about two journaling prompts. One will be quite soon and one will be more towards the end. If you like to write in a notebook, I invite you to get that out. If you like to write in a Word document, I invite you to get that out. Or get ready to be pensive and think on your own if that's what you most prefer. We'll also use Poll Everywhere, so there will be a few polling questions as well. And there will be a lot of conversations with each other. So I invite you all to get ready to share your knowledge and also learn some knowledge from each other. And the last is that we're going to use the annotation tool, which is a fun tool on Zoom. And it's one that we use less often. So to start off and to kind of warm up in our space together, first I'll show you, this is how it should look on your screen. So on your screen, it should say you are viewing Kelly Gorman's screen or Kelly's screen, and you should have the option on right next to that. It should say view options like this picture does. And then if you click annotate, you'll get a bar up on your screen, and that's where you'll be able to get different stickers, and you can even write with it. What I will ask you to do is use the sticker option there. And I have 3 warm-up questions. So I want you to put a sticker next to the answer that you would use to answer the question that will be on the screen. Let me just grab the chat. Oh, okay. I'm seeing it's not available to folks. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry about that. Well, you can participate in the chat feature then. Sorry, everyone. First question, is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes or no? I guess the annotation is not working, but let me know if you think that's a yes or no answer there. I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some nos. Oh, Sarah said maybe we can use reactions. I love that. So also throw some reactions out there. Let me get my participants thing open so I can see that as well. Okay. All right, awesome. So I got that view up too. I see it depends. I guess there's complexity there. I agree with that. There were a lot of different pictures to choose from for a hot dog, and some pictures made me lean more towards the side of a sandwich, and others were like, nah, that's not a sandwich. So there's a lot that comes into play there. My next question for you all is ice cream a soup? We're seeing a lot of no's. And it depends. I appreciate that one. I'm going to make the strong case for a yes, largely because I love ice cream. So I want to be able to eat ice cream at more times in my life. And yeah, I see someone says only if it's in the liquid state. We could get into the chemistry there, but we don't need to. Is frozen soup ice cream? Now that's a hard hitting question. Let's continue on with that one. Melissa, I agree with you. If it is a soup, it's the best soup ever. Couldn't agree more. My last warm-up question for you today: if you clean out a vacuum cleaner, are you a vacuum cleaner? Yes or no? What do we think there? Oh, okay. No, you're a vacuum cleaner. That's a good differentiation. I didn't even think about that one. I see some, it depends. I see a yes. I very much fall in the yes category with this one. I'm with you there. All right. So thank you so much for your patience with me, and apologies again that the annotation tool isn't working. We're only using it in 2 to 3 slides from now. So I think we'll be able to, we've shown our resilience together already, and I'm confident we'll be able to continue that together as we move forward. But first, I have a polling question for you using Poll Everywhere, and we will use this a bit. So my question is, have you ever procrastinated before? To participate, please go to pollev.com/AliceHP. You can also text in, and the number that you text is 22333, and then what you put in the text box is Alice HP. And Robin just put that in the chat feature, so we have pollev.com/AliceHP. Thank you for throwing that in there. All right, I'm seeing 100% of you are saying yes. You can't see my answer, but my answer is also yes. And so with that, because we all have procrastinated before, this is where we're gonna do our first kind of bit of journaling and reflection. Ooh, sorry. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. I want you to write about a time that you procrastinated. Maybe it's a notable experience, maybe it's the last time you did it, or maybe it's the pattern that you most often find yourself in. Whatever it is, I want you to kind of write it in a story almost. You could write a story about it, but really I want you to just get into the details, and I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes, and I want you to just write for that time. So I want you to explain what is it that you did or what is it that you do, and just write all the details out there. Try to explain it to someone else. Are there any questions before I mute myself and I put about 3 minutes on my clock? All right, awesome. So I'm gonna mute myself. And again, I want you to try to write for about 3 minutes, and I want you to reflect and write and try to explain When was the last time you procrastinated, or what was a notable time when you were procrastinating? Or what is the pattern that you most often find yourself in? Any of the above, take a few minutes and write about that now. All right, and I'm going to invite you to wrap up whatever it is you're writing. We'll come back together in about 20 seconds or so. All right. Thank you so much for taking some time to do that reflection and hopefully do a little bit of writing, thinking about what's a notable time that you procrastinated. And with that, the next two slides are when we were going to use the annotation tool. I appreciate you all for being adaptable and resilient with me. So I'm going to ask you to participate in the chat feature, but also if you want to turn your camera on and unmute yourself, I invite you to do that. If you want to not turn your camera on, but just unmute yourself and have a conversation, totally invited as well, whatever you feel excited for. So our activity is, I'm interested to hear, what did your story involve that you just wrote about? Did it involve a test, a paper, a presentation, quiz, maybe a group project? And please feel free, again, you can share that in the chat feature. You can talk whatever you're feeling right now. All right, I'm seeing one paper and two for presentation, essay paper, quant problem set. That sounds terrible. Paper reading, papers. Oh, I see someone raise their hand. Go for it. Alexandra.
So I actually had 2 pregnancies and 3 children, right? So the second time we had twins. And on both occasions, we waited to the very last minute to name our children. We were literally being discharged, and I was still filling out the paperwork. It was painful, yet I still was unsure and indecisive. I also have a pattern of waiting to the last minute to upload papers that are due, and then I might encounter a technical difficulty, which slows the process down, and I risk getting penalized for handing it in seconds late.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm a twin, so that's my fun fact there. And it sounds like many people are agreeing with some of the things that you're saying in the chat feature as well. Waiting until the last minute to submit online, and then technical difficulties and risk being penalized. I definitely feel that. And also, it sounds like some bigger life things of, like naming your children. Definitely some things where some procrastination was coming into play for you as well. I see folks saying taxes in the chat feature. I feel that on a really deep personal level. And when they extend the deadline, only because of my procrastination tendencies, that's kind of not a good thing for me, because it means that I will wait until the new deadline to start my taxes. So I feel that. I see some people feel validated by these responses, and I feel validated by your validation. So thank you for sharing that. Someone said a few weeks ago, submitting an assignment 9 minutes late earned me a lower grade. That is rough. Emails, insurance forms, reading. Someone said other small things like replying to texts and emails. Wow, yeah, I'm seeing some affirmation for that both in the chat feature, and me as a person, Kelly, will affirm that as well. Sending mass communications, projects. Someone else, Alexandra agreed with the tax deadline. Awesome. So what we're seeing is, it sounds like folks are procrastinating on things that are both big and kind of big life events, as well as things that are as small as, maybe that friend that texted you just saying, hey, how's it going? I have this annoying thing where someone might text me, and if I'm not feeling like I'm in the mood to engage with them in the ways that I hope to, I can't open the text message. And so I'll go through a week with that little number 1 next to my text message icon. And then it's so annoying to look at my phone every time, and I just see that message just waiting and waiting, and I still don't feel ready to respond to it. Creates this whole cycle. But yes, I'm seeing more of responding to texts and important emails, papers, and projects. Something that I'm recognizing in a lot of these things is that there seems to be a bit of a theme in terms of all these things seem important in some form or fashion, whether it's the level of importance of naming a child, or it's something of responding to a text from someone who thought enough of you to reach out to you. All of these things kind of are important to us in some way, form, or fashion. All right. So this is kind of getting at some of those things, but I'm also wondering why did the instance that you wrote about in our exercise, let's kind of focus there. Why did this instance feel notable? I threw a few options up there on the screen. Feel free to throw the real reasons in the chat feature. It might be one that you see on the screen, but you might have a different reason why your instance felt notable. And if you want to raise your hand in chat as well, I very much welcome that. So I see someone says, I only procrastinate mainly with things that are of high importance to me. So I'm seeing that theme again. Someone said it feels all too common. I still feel bad about it. Yeah, those are some of the ones on the screen. It felt impossible, like this massive task that I was totally unequipped for, that would take days of work. Yeah, sometimes things feel like really big and you don't even know where to start. Feeling like I have other work that is more interesting to do. It starts out small, but the longer it takes me, the more insurmountable it seems. I identify with that a lot. I procrastinate on things that take a large amount of confused time, of emotional or mental energy. Absolutely. Too common, still feel bad about it. It's not work I enjoy. Sometimes it builds anxiety to get started. Yeah. I procrastinate because I build up the task, even if it is a simple thing. Finishing assignments at the last few hours kind of encourages me to keep doing it, and it becomes common. I identify with that a lot. And for me, that's built like I triumphed there. And sometimes I have these like procrastination stories that I'm really proud of, because I'm like, you know what, I did that. I made it work. So I feel that. For me, it's an ugly pattern. I procrastinate even smaller, simpler tasks. So I'm seeing too, for some people, it's, you procrastinate on something and, that might be in one part of your life. And then you recognize that it's actually starting to become a habit in other parts of your life as well. I feel like I feed off the adrenaline of the deadline / walls closing in to break into it. Yeah. So there's that adrenaline pump. You actually kind of feel it neurologically, and that's something that we'll actually get into a little bit later as well. Awesome. So now it might be just a different fashion than the chat feature, but I'd love to see on the big screen and get up, what are some factors that influence your procrastination? We've talked a bit about, thinking about what made a procrastination memory or moment notable for you. We thought about times and spaces when we do it. And now I want to think about kind of more broadly, what are some factors that influence your procrastination? And this is on Poll Everywhere. So if you go to pollev.com/AliceHP, whatever you submit will show up on the screen that you see right now as well. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. Let's think about what are some factors that influence our procrastination. Yeah, anxiety is definitely a big factor that influences procrastination. So anxiety to begin / anxiety that I won't do well. Difficulty of the task. I think I see a raised hand. Oh, yes. Deepika, would you like to unmute yourself or turn on your camera?
Hey, yes. Hi. I feel like I always think that I have more time than I actually do. And I know that this deadline is, say, on Friday, and suddenly it's Friday evening, but I kept telling myself that I have more time. So, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like you have so much more time, and then when the time is actually starting to get there, you're like, oh my gosh, where did all this time go? At the beginning, I saw someone had said, is it already Thursday night? And I was in the middle of typing back. I identify with that, but it feels similar to what you're saying, in that sometimes the experience of time is very different than, when it's delineated on paper of, oh, you have 3 days to do this. And then when you're experiencing those 3 days, it goes by in an entirely different fashion. Going to some of the responses I'm seeing on the screen, I see the task feels overwhelming for various reasons. Smartphone, YouTube, social media, sounds like some distractions. Past painful experience with this type of work. Fear of not writing unique, oh, sorry, everyone. Oh, okay, we're back, thank you. Fear of not writing something unique and worthwhile. I take too many breaks and it's hard for me to get into a rhythm. Stress, insecurity about being able to do a good work, anxiety about papers that will be published, imposter syndrome, getting involved in too many things, and always running behind with deliverables. Yes, you all are highlighting some really important things here. Feeling like I want to keep options open and don't want to pin it down till I have to. Absolutely. What can I make up in another day? All right. So those are some kind of general factors that we're seeing that influence our procrastination. Now I want to think about, how has the pandemic impacted your procrastination? Someone said, no effect from the pandemic, same as before. Is that how everyone feels? So some folks are saying pretty similar. Having more time can be difficult. I'm taking courses remotely from a vastly different time zone. Absolutely. It's easier to get distracted online. Days feel longer. Staying at home makes me don't want to study. I just spend time on my bed. Working hours and deadlines are a lot more flexible now, hence more room for procrastination. Absolutely. Harder to procrastinate, not moving my body. Oh, I changed this page. I'm so sorry, everyone. Okay, here. We're at the page again. Thank you for your patience. Falling behind in classes because I procrastinate on the asynchronous lectures. Time blends together more, absolutely. And I'm seeing a few in the chat feature. I think I've completely lost my work ethic. Professors are far too lenient now. And separation of class and home / work and home. I'm assuming there's a lack thereof. Oh, so not needing to face people in person somehow makes it easier to stretch a deadline. I feel that not accounting for things like commute makes it worse than before because of less energy. Spend a lot of time isolated and hard to focus. Absolutely. So it sounds like for many people, the pandemic feels like it hasn't impacted procrastination too much. For some people, it sounds like the remote work and the loss of a commute and somehow the flexibility is increasing procrastination because now you have more time to procrastinate. And I think this one is really important. Being unsure of the future makes me feel less motivated in general. So we're also hearing some things around motivation and around uncertainty. And those are really important parts of the global context that we're all experiencing right now that we're going to get into in just a little bit. My last question for you all is this one. What are some strategies that you have used in the past to manage your procrastination? What's helped you so far? Many of you are probably graduate students at Columbia, so you likely have had to try out a few things. And if not, what are strategies that you've heard of that you might be kind of interested in trying? I see in the chat feature, making lists and scheduling blocks on my calendar. That's a great strategy. Someone says delaying things until the last minute really helps with getting things done. Then it only takes a minute, like the title, right? Lie to myself about a deadline. That's a really good strategy. To-do lists sometimes help. Embracing mediocrity. We'll actually touch on that a little bit more. I have a small plastic frog given by Columbia called Eat the Frog. That sounds awesome. I'm not sure how that relates to procrastination, but I'd love to hear more. Schedule my work timeout, forcing myself to start one very small step. For example, just reading the prompt of a paper. coming up, or telling myself to do just 10 minutes of a workout, and then I'll usually do the whole thing. Nice. Trying to be super organized by setting weekly and daily goals, scheduling tasks by blocks of time in my calendar, Pomodoro technique. I used to force myself to be alone until work was done and reward myself by hanging out with friends or TV. Try to use accountability groups to give me a soft first deadline to get peer feedback. Do things at the very last minute helps, but most importantly, I try to remind myself my work doesn't have to be perfect. To-do list and schedule tasks in my calendar. Forcing myself to just get started and then get something done rather than trying to do something perfect. Using fake library/study sounds as white noise. I like that one. Setting a really, really low bar. This one kind of goes hand in hand with the mediocrity comment before. We'll get into both of those as we go. Trying to lower my high expectations of myself. We'll get into that. Try a tracker that keeps track of time I spend on work and studies. There are a number of tools out there. If those are effective for you, I definitely invite you to share what works for you in the chat feature, because there are so many out there. I can't even keep track of them all. Say done is better than perfect. Hold my breath and start. Yep. I see in the chat feature, someone says, totally identify with all the responses regarding perfectionism. Me too. And back to the screen, thinking about the good results and mood after I finish the tasks. Absolutely. Awesome. So we got a lot of strategies out there right now, right? There's a lot that you all are already doing, and hopefully we can continue that conversation. What you all do and what you have experience with is super, super important. So I want you to hang on to that. I want you to get inspiration from each other as well. Okay, tune into what it actually feels like in my body and mind to be stressed before a deadline, and acknowledging the effects it has. Absolutely. Stephanie said these are great strategies. Can we collect these? Yes, they are collected in the polling software. So I can send those to University Life afterwards, and they can send that out. Also, this is being recorded. So the recording will be posted at a later time, and you can rewatch them on your screens at that point as well. All right, so I see procrastination and perfectionism is the worst combination. Awesome, I agree with that, and we'll get into that right now as well. And I want to thank you all so much for your participation and for sharing those ideas and connections with each other. It's so important. Here's the part where I'm going to share a little framework with you, and then we're going to get back to some of this kind of team brainstorming and sharing with each other. But so anytime that we're talking about procrastination, we're also really talking about effectiveness, right? Procrastination often feels like this thing that's getting in the way of our effectiveness, or it's getting in the way of our optimal performance. And we know that optimal performance is something that people care a lot about. It's something that people have also studied for a long time. So in looking at some of the research around optimal performance, we get to some concepts of personal values and of flourishing. And for a really long time, people thought that when you clarify what's important to you, when you know what your personal values are, you can tap into a deeper level of motivation, and this can produce a higher level of action. You can be more effective. If you know what it is you want to do and why, then that can be a stronger motivation, and you'll be more effective. People thought that is a linear relationship like this for a really long time. Well, what researchers have found in the past few decades is that it's actually a curvilinear relationship, and it actually looks a lot more like this. So the moment that we clarify and commit to our values, the moment that we commit to acting on things that are important to us, we actually find ourselves frequently experiencing conflicting motivations, and those conflicting motivations tend to produce conflicting actions. This is because we become vulnerable to a cascade of what ifs. What if I fail? What if I'm rejected? Or what if I'm hurt? What if this affects my future? One that I heard before, and this is one that I struggle with all the time, is what if I make a decision right now that I'll regret in the future, and then I feel trapped? That one is super, super common. Another what if is what if others evaluate me negatively or unfairly? So the thing is, as soon as we start working towards things that are important to us, stakes become involved, and we encounter these vulnerabilities that neurologically and kind of naturally we don't always handle in the best ways. And here's why. So the moment that something becomes important to us, there are three unavoidable truths or kind of constructs that accompany that. The first is uncertainty. So we can never completely control everything that goes into what's important to us. There's always a chance that you may fail or you may lose what's important to you. The second is a cost. So if you were to fail or if you were to lose what was important to you, there would be a personal cost and you would be hurt in some manner. And the third is a perceived evaluation. So when you engage in what's important to you, you're also aware that opinions are being formed about you, and you're also forming opinions about yourselves. And so you recognize that people are evaluating how you're doing related to whatever it is that's important to you. And one thing that's tough about this is that our perceptions of how people are evaluating us are not always very accurate. These three things come together to form fear of failure, which is often experienced as pressure. So you might have a friend who is like, you know what, I'm just under a lot of pressure right now. I'll talk to you in 3 weeks. And in many cases, what that means and what they're talking about is this kind of fear of failure. And if we look at our neurology, if we look at our neurological or natural responses to this type of fear of failure or pressure, is to avoid and escape until we have to, or to over control and perfect everything related to it. So the moment that we dare to care, we become vulnerable to all of these uncertainties. And naturally, we turn to both perfectionism and procrastination. And most often they tend to cycle with each other. So you might practice, or you might do one of them more often than the other, but you also likely do the other one in some instances as well. And something that's tough about this is that there's a ceiling effect that comes altogether. This is the fear-based model of excellence. And there's a ceiling effect that occurs with it that actually hinders our optimal performance. Because our natural coping patterns of over perfection and over control and procrastination or avoidance, they eventually stop being optimally effective. And in doing so, we tend to chase the pursuit of calm rather than the pursuit of excellence. So we tend to chase that feeling that is temporary, and it tends to be emotion based, and it's chasing that calm, and that's what's guiding a lot of these coping patterns. So again, it's not awful. This is our natural neurological way of dealing with things that are important to us, or when we're striving for things that are important to us. These are our natural and neurological responses. And the reason that it creates the ceiling effect is because it actually creates a plateau effect. And so whenever we lead with fear, whenever we're engaging in these things and working towards these things that are important to us, our values sometimes drift to a place of fear. So we drift from a focus on our values and what's most important to us to a place of need. And when there's high levels of uncertainty and fear, you need reassurance that everything is going to be okay. And you satisfy that need by becoming very dependent on outcomes and comparisons. So as long as you have outcomes like grades and achievements, and positive valuations and affirmations from others, you can start to have confidence that everything is going to be okay. And the more you become dependent on outcomes, though, the more you start keeping score. You start evaluating how things are going. And so this creates a plateau effect because it creates a chronically evaluative mindset. Your mind can never fully shut off from how am I doing? How am I doing? And even more specifically, how am I doing now related to everyone else? And we fall into this never-ending cycle of compensatory need and evaluation. And on days where you don't experience the outcomes to reassure you, your fear actually skyrockets. It actually increases. And you need the outcomes to make up for the bad day. And this constant cycle actually really hinders our ability to think creatively and critically. We become highly comparative to other people around us. And for me, the saddest consequence of this plateau effect is that once you attain an outcome, instead of experiencing joy, the first emotion is relief. So when you think about that, you work so hard towards something that is a really important goal, and you finally get there, and the first thing that you feel is relief, not the joy that you've worked for. The thing with this too is that the plateau effect is amplified by life transitions or any time that there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. If you think about the context of the past year, if you think about there being a global pandemic and our world changing in all the ways that it has, our fear and uncertainty is higher than ever. And it makes sense that many of our neurological coping patterns of over control and avoidance are also operating at high speed as well. So altogether, this is kind of the fear-based model of excellence. And there are ways that we can train to hold fear in its perspective and really keep our values in the foreground. So what this mainly involves is 5 key paradigm shifts. We're not going to go through all of them today. I'll name them for you just to kind of paint that bigger picture, but then we'll kind of get back to procrastination because it's all related. But so the first key paradigm shift is shifting from values clarification to values relationship. So it's not enough to know just what's important to you. You need to have a relationship with that. How are your personal values different right now than they were 6 months ago? And how is that going to change moving into the future? Recognizing that what's most important to you at a moment in time will change. That's natural, that's healthy, and you just got to know what it is. The second thing is shifting from equity-minded to integrity-minded. So when we expect equity, I put 100% in studying for my test, and I expect 100% out. That's me being equity-minded and expecting equity. That's not accounting for the fact that I've had really unfair professors and they always put trick questions on the exam. So I'm never going to get 100% out. I might be lucky to get a 95, but I won't get equity out. And if I'm basing my self-worth off of whether or not I get equity, then I'm always going to fall short. I'm always going to be beating myself up. So shifting to integrity is really about valuing that process. In what ways are you acting on what's most important to you? And how are you deriving your self-worth from that? The third key paradigm shift is shifting from our natural neurological coping patterns of fear and importance. So shifting from reducing fear through over control and avoidance to holding fear well. The fourth one is shifting from an avoidance of difficult emotions to building our confidence in managing difficult emotions. So something might be difficult, but it's only difficult and I can cope with that. It's really building up those skills and that confidence that you can cope with something that's difficult. And the last one is shifting from a chronically evaluative mindset to an expressive mindset. So that's being able to pause and turn off your brain from saying, how am I doing? How am I doing? To really thinking about an expressive mindset, which really it correlates to more experiences of flow, where you might be so engrossed in what it is that you're doing that you lose track of time. It sounds in many ways like a lot of you named that the hardest part is starting. And once you start whatever it is you're procrastinating on, then you're okay. And that's the hardest part. Well, if that's the case for you, then something that may be happening is that you're moving into a state of flow after you begin. So once you get into it, then you're good to go. Then you get into that expressive mindset. So this is kind of the bigger picture key shifts here. And now I want to move into kind of thinking about managing and overcoming procrastination. So as we've been talking about, we see that it's partly about managing fear. And this is something that you all named too. It's also partly about managing our emotions and being okay if we're not chasing that temporary calm. And what it's always about is trying and finding strategies that work for you. So I have a few that I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to get back together and do some more brainstorming. But one of my favorite strategies really has to do with managing some of the fear and what a lot of you were talking about, where you were saying that it feels like this big mountain and you don't even know where to start. And that is remembering this simple quote of "One feeling can't, what of this can I do?" It's so simple. And when you say that to yourself, it is very good at putting you in that expressive mindset where you're ready to pick out, okay, well, this is what I can do right now. So again, one feeling can't, what of this can I do? The other part that I like to name with this is we're all going to have off days, right? We're all going to have days where you wake up and you're like, oof, I only have 60% to give today. And that's normal and that's natural. And what we also naturally do is we beat ourselves up because we're like, oh, I'm having an off day. I'm only giving 60% when I need to give 100%. And when we do that, you actually lose 15%. So when we beat ourselves up for not giving 100%, when we only have 60% to give in a day, you actually operate at 45%. Whereas if instead you wake up and you're like, I'm having an off day, I only have about 60% to give, If you just focus on giving the best 60% that you can, you'll actually gain 15%. You'll actually operate at 75%. So I want you to remember, when feeling can't, what of this can I do? And then the next strategy also comes from a lot of the work around how to manage fear well. And this is really shifting from being noun focused to verb focused. So nouns are outcomes, nouns are grades, they're achievements, they're those, positive affirmations or evaluations. Those are all nouns. Verbs are what we do to achieve those nouns. And so anytime we're feeling these neurological coping patterns of perfectionism or procrastination, we can always think about these 4 verbs. And at any given moment in your entire life, one of these 4 verbs should be relevant. So the acronym is ALERT, and the A really just stands for actions, reminding you to stay verb focused. And then LERT are the verbs. So at any given moment in time, one of these 4 verbs could be relevant for you. Learning, expressing what you've learned and your abilities to date, relating, and taking care of yourself. So again, that's ALERT. That's learning, expressing what you've learned and your abilities to date, relating, and taking care of yourself. If you find that you're procrastinating and you're just kind of scrolling through the endless social media and online platforms, maybe you catch yourself and you say, okay, I'm procrastinating right now. What's the verb that I need to focus on? I think I actually need to focus on taking care of myself. That's what this is telling me. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do something to actually take care of myself. That might not be that social media. It might be something completely different, because that's what I need to focus on. And then I'm going to go back and I'm only going to focus on learning. For me, when I'm thinking about a presentation, I think about, all right, let me just express what I've learned and my abilities to date. When I'm just expressing what I already know, I get into that expressive mindset. It helps get me over that chronically evaluative mindset. And then the other one that I also really like is relating, especially as we get into more and more social situations. I don't know if anyone else ever is like, ooh, I'm kind of nervous to go into this group, this group conversation when I don't know people, or, I'm having a bit of social anxiety. And instead, I find that it's really helpful to say, like, okay, well, how do I want to relate with people right now? I think I want to relate with curiosity and empathy. And I'm just going to focus on doing that. I'm just going to focus on that verb. So again, we want to stay verb focused and shift away from being that noun focused. Those are some strategies that hit the level of kind of thinking about how you think. Some more kind of surface level ones that you all have named already, for the most part, is the list that you see on your screen right now. So staying organized can help. Using your calendar, making to-do lists, and setting goals can be really helpful. Being realistic with yourself. So you might not be able to do all 20 things in one day, but again, what of those 20 things can you do? Consider your surroundings. Are you around a lot of loud music or folks who are distracting you? And are there ways to mitigate that? Take notice of your self-talk. So remember what I said in terms of that 15%. With that negative self-talk, you're letting go of 15% of capacity that you actually had. With positive self-talk, you're getting back 15%. Break it down and commit to a small task, and make an unschedule. This is one that one of my colleagues told me about, and I haven't tried it. So if you try it, let me know what you think. But an unschedule is thinking about, all right, what are the things that I want to do that might not be related to work or school? I really want to watch this movie with my friends, and I want to do this virtual party, whatever it might be. And making a schedule of just those kind of fun things that you're looking forward to. And then the rest of your schedule is the time that you have to do the things that you got to do. So that's kind of making an unschedule. So with that, I want you to do a little bit of reflection, and then we're going to do a group brainstorm. But I want you to think about, what are some strategies that you've used in the past, and where do you see them fitting into some of the things that we've talked about in terms of the frameworks? Do some of the strategies that you've used in the past help you manage fear? And maybe that's one of the reasons why they're helpful for you. And given all of the strategies that we've come up with together and some of the ones that I just named, what are some new ideas that you might want to try out in the future? So I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, and I just want you to do a little bit of reflection. All right, awesome. Thank you all for taking a minute to reflect there. So for the last activity, I want to do a group brainstorm. And ideally, I'm hoping to put you into breakout rooms. I don't know if anyone would be honest enough to let me know if you're going to leave if I put you into breakout rooms or not. But the idea is I want you to go into breakout rooms of about 3 to 4 people. And as a group, I want you to come up with what are 5 strategies that you would recommend as a group to your peers. And it could also be things that you might recommend to yourself. So with that, I am going to ask Robin to put you into breakout rooms of about 3 to 4, and we will give you about 4 minutes together in the breakout room. Awesome. Are we all back? Perfect. So hopefully you all came up with some good strategies as a group, and I invite you to share some of the great strategies that you came up with in the poll everywhere right now. So what's one strategy for managing procrastination that you want to take with you and try moving forward? This could be one that you want to try. Also, it could be one that you want to recommend, or just one that you heard in your conversation groups right now that you want to throw out there for everyone to hear as well. One thing I will name right now is that, especially when it comes to procrastination, as you all are probably aware, your experience of your general well-being is important, and it relates to that so much. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're likely going to procrastinate more. Those coping patterns that are just neurological will come out, and your strategies for getting around them may be a little bit less effective. So again, as with anything, your well-being is really holistic, and you have to make sure that you're nourishing your body with food, and you're also nourishing your body with the sleep that it needs. And when we take those things away, it's also going to negatively impact our procrastination as well. Someone said set early. Oh, sorry, everyone. Okay. We're back to it. Okay. Set earlier internal deadlines for group projects. That's a good one. Be more realistic with the amount of work that can be done in a day. From our group, 1, break it down into smaller tasks. Do informal, lower stakes projects like a blog post or teaching friends to get validation without evaluation. Share accountability with someone else. Group WhatsApp with people in the same class. Manage our self-talk. Break down larger projects into smaller pieces. An expressive mindset, and be confident to yourself. Use focus mode on my phone to pause distracting apps. Absolutely. Set smaller, feasible milestones to be able to finish, and do not feel like I am not making progress. Absolutely. So I also appreciate some of you all are talking about accountability and having buddies in this. And so with that, I also want to invite you to share your LinkedIn or your email information in the chat feature. If you want other folks to reach out to you, I invite you to create those communities for yourselves as well in the chat. Get away from the internet, writing in a paper notebook, turning off Wi-Fi. Absolutely. So getting away from screens in general is also something that can help you in your sleep. So if you're finding that it's difficult to sleep at night, if you turn off your screens a little bit earlier, just put a little bit more time between your screens and your sleep, that can help you sleep better as well. Exercise and physical activity that clears the head. Yeah, that can be a great way to take a break from something you're working on. That will also help you with your sleep. So that's important. I see someone says, I recommend the book Super Productive by Sharon Dangzer. Has anyone found any strategies for dealing with excessive use of social media / WhatsApp / use of phone in general? That's a great question. Does anyone have any wisdom to share with everyone else related to dealing with excessive use of social media?
I do. I'll share. I have an Android phone, but I have an app or a functionality that's like focus mode, and you can pause the app for a certain amount of time, and it only releases at the time that you set. So I set it until like 6 p.m. at least, and then I can unpause it. And if I do try to unpause it, or if it looks grayed out on my phone, and then if it does unpause, or it'll ask me if I want to unpause it. And so I don't just mindlessly tap on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So trying to find a pause or a kind of silence button for apps, particularly related to social media, that can be a great tool. Someone said in the chat, I left social media. Oh, sorry, that's not a strategy. Oh, someone uses a phone cage to lock their phone during the day.
May I suggest something?
Yeah.
I'm a second year MBA, MBA at Columbia, and they had this startup session for us when we first started the program. So they all gave us these little froggies. And this is a quote by Mark Twain, actually. So it teaches you to tackle the most hardest thing of the day, the hardest thing first thing in the day. And the frog is a reminder to eat the frog first thing in the morning. So this has helped me for the last 2 years. And a lot of my colleagues and classmates, they all have this little froggy on there. So this book that I recommended, Columbia recommended us this book and this little froggy they gave us when we started. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was wondering what's the little frog about? And that's another great strategy. So starting with what you don't like first, or starting with what is the hardest for you, is also another great strategy. You'll have the most mental capacity when you approach it. And one other thing I will say is that a lot of this too has huge overlaps with time management. So time management is another great way to manage your procrastination. It's not the only way. We also have an entire workshop that's only dedicated to time management. So be on the lookout for that, where you'll get a lot more strategies similar to that one. And yeah, so with that, I want to thank you all so much for your engagement today, for being in community with each other and with me, and for being resilient and adaptable. I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate your participation. My email is up on the screen right now. It's kag2179@cumc.columbia.edu. If you want to reach out, ask questions, chat, whatever that might be, I would look forward to hearing from you. And thank you for being with me today. I'll throw it back over to Melissa now.
Yes, and I
Thank
will.
you, Kelly.
Yes, I will second that, Kelly. Kelly is an awesome resource. I go to her even for my own sort of work and just thought partner, and definitely reach out to her if you have any questions at all. So again, thank you to Kelly for sharing her time and expertise with our students. I just want to remind everyone that today's event is part of the Graduate Initiative for Inclusion and Engagement. This is only one of a series of events throughout the semester. We have another incredible workshop focused on working from home that will also be featuring Kelly. So be sure to check out our events calendar, which has been included in the chat. That event is scheduled for April 7th. So keep that date in mind. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you who attended and participated. We hope that you gained a lot out of today's event. Lastly, you will receive a feedback form in a follow-up email, and we encourage you to fill it out with any feedback you might have so that we can continue to put on events that serve your needs and interests as students. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and healthy.